I'm Juke. I use they, them pronouns, and I work in tech software engineering. I've been a leader in several different roles. At the moment, I'm an engineering manager, but I've also been staff engineer. I feel that it's a really broad industry with many different pockets in it. You could think of it as a wide range of different environments that people create software in. If we're talking about the commercial side of things, like for-profit companies that create products or consult other companies on how to do that better, I would say that there's still a huge range from working in an enterprise, working in a startup, even just looking at the profit. And there's also huge non-profit, open source sort of kind of things. So I've always seen it as, two people could be working as software engineers and have extremely different experiences based on the kind of environment they're in. Throughout my career, my focus is on creating better work environments in those areas where I can have an influence. So I feel like I do that both through the teams that I work in as the job that I'm employed in and the type of work that I do in communities like the software craft community, where I create events, facilitate events, and all of that. I would say that representation is just a very small step, but I think by being a leader and being visible as a leader or speaking at conferences and being seen, it can start changing people's minds of what's possible. And of course, it can be sort of create an avenue or show a role model of where people could grow into, even if they don't fit the stereotypical view of what a successful software engineer might look like. And the other aspect is, of course, inclusivity, which I feel like is the even bigger challenge, because once you get people to consider this career or get into it or consider applying for a company or even go through the interview process and be considered a valuable add to the team, you still have the issue how you can create the kind of environment that will make them feel like they are actually a valued member of the team, not just coming in and following the existing patterns, but also just by thinking differently, adding their way of thinking, changing things for the better. It's a little bit like sort of a self-reinforcing mechanism. If you come here and you don't feel like you fit in, you might not come back. And then there's no critical mass of people that will make you feel like you're the kind of person that should be at this event. I would say it's still a matter of where in the software engineering ecosphere or environment you are. There are environments and companies and communities that are more inclusive and have more visible diversity, where you might feel that the organizing team or even other attendees go out of their way to make you feel welcome and be part and be a valued member of the community, which is the kinds of events I tend to go to, are those kind of events. And of course, organizers can do a lot to try to improve things, and there's lots of resources on how to do that. But I think it requires a lot of effort. Conferences are struggling. They might want to focus on other things, which is totally fine. It's a bit of a sacrifice, and I feel that sometimes it would be good if conference organizers would make that choice deliberately rather than accidentally by just being like throwing the hands up and being like, yeah, looks like we didn't get much diversity today, rather than saying, okay, we made a choice, a pragmatic choice, and these are the consequences, and we're okay with that. But of course, you cannot say that because it's considered wrong. I would prefer the honesty in that, and rather than not thinking about it at all. There's a part of a software engineer's career that is all about how they can grow their own craft and abilities to create better software, but also it's really, really motivating to be good at what you do. to find a path to growth, on both as a person but also as a software engineer in many different ways, right? There's so many ways to be growing. I think that with the complexity that we have in this industry, this is impossible to do by yourself. I have a very strong opinion that we need to learn from each other and go into interaction and have our ideas challenged and discuss them in order to truly grow. And it's also reflected by how we work, because in all but the simplest of projects, you are going to have to collaborate both with your teammates that have different skills, but also with people that are not software engineers. You have to have empathy with the users. Then you can create better things, create better environments. And in all, like, events and communities are a great start for that. Maybe, you know, it's not your thing to go to a conference, but you could have an online community. You could read blogs. That's also some kind of community. You could write a blog. You could create videos and consume videos. You could go to local meetups. There's so many different ways to engage with software engineering and others as a whole. And what I really like about these kinds of events is that they're international, right? So you don't just get the view of people you come into contact with doing your work life, like your colleagues or maybe other companies that your company collaborates with, but you get a more global view of what is the state of the art in the industry. And you get lots of inspiration that then makes you look up those things, maybe on the web or buying those books and reading those books, just getting out from under your small rock and seeing more. That's why I think these kind of events are important. And it's truly not just consuming the talks, like going on YouTube or on a website. It's interacting with the people who are there, because the serendipitous conversations only happen if people get together on their shared purpose. I think the best work environments, it's something that I really care about and I want to create in my career, are based on psychological safety. I think it's really important for people to not have the overhead of thinking about, okay, all the ways in which they have to perform in order not to be seen as a failure, or they might expect, you know, to be attacked or criticized at any point. They might not speak up about something that's going wrong, and that will cost the company a lot of money, like if you want to put it in monetary terms. But also over time, it erodes trust and people might leave or get burned out, get mental health problems just based on the lack of trust and psychological safety. But if you have psychological safety, it creates an environment where everyone can bring in their unique abilities for the whole team to be successful together. Yeah, I've been recently asked, like, what makes a good facilitator, because I'm gonna take a break from community work for a couple of months. It was really, really hard for me to figure out what that is, like to put it into words. But I think a couple of things that I can think about that really help is, over time, I've realized that as much as possible, I need to get out of the way of people doing their thing, right? People already have so much potential that they can bring into a community, into a group. So if I set everyone up with the right mindset of what we're about to do, why we're here, and then I get out of the way, that creates amazing results that I would have never thought about, because it's not about me. I'm just here to help, you know, bring this kind of atmosphere so that people can be at their best selves. Something that is important is to catch everyone where they are. So, for example, in a big gathering, there might be people who are sensitive to loud noises. So can I find a way for people to applaud silently, for example, so that this doesn't disrupt their experience? Maybe there are lots of people who want to give long introductions to what they're about to do when we don't have much time, right? Can I set everyone up for success by planting someone to give a short intro to show everyone how it's done? like all these kind of small things. So from my perspective, the industry has gone through a lot of changes over the decades. We started out with women being the main contributors to software engineering and creating most of the software, and then being pushed out as people realize this is a lucrative work, and all these stereotypes being placed on what makes a good software engineer that are like so far from the collaborative ideas and the collaborative ways of working that we need today. One of the good things that came out of this boom where software engineers were so needed that we didn't have enough was that all these different ways were established that people could get into the industry without having studied computer science or gone through this long formal training that, for example, non-men were really pushed out of explicitly, and, you don't belong here. Through, for example, boot camps, like more people could get into the industry. And I think that created also the advantage that people had a different career before, they could bring all of their knowledge from that career. And I think that's super important and cool. Now it's on us to change the industry to, as folks like that get more into leadership roles, is to try to remove those glass ceilings that I have bumped into as well, right? There's still a lot of work to do. I see a positive trend, and you can get more and more diverse set of people, not just when it comes to gender, speaking at conferences, for example. You can see more leaders established, and it's on us on all of us, right, the whole industry, to highlight those things, to pay attention, to make an effort to look beyond what you think is the right way to build software. Because through these innovations, we think differently than we thought before. We can create so much value and such better environments for people to work in. I think that is super important. And I see it happening. Maybe it starts with small pockets and then it becomes mainstream later. But there are these pockets. And if you seek them out, I think you can find a very welcoming environment.